Today, we're officially bringing back
everybody's favorite series.
That's right, my friend. Today we're gonna be making a patch in Amplitude 5. Let's go check it out together. Amor relanzasing now. We break it down, baby. Right, my friend, thank you so much for being here once again in another video. And like I said in the intro, today we're bringing back everybody's favorite series, and we're once again making guitar tones in Amplitude 5. And just because we're friends, we're gonna kick it with what I'm using right now in the songs that I've been doing like
last week.
So bring your headphones, a great set of speakers, whatever you feel comfortable listening to music, because we're about to make some real noise and get ready to make a modern high-end guitar tone. So let's stop the talking, get to the rocking, and check it out. Here we are, my friend, in my computer, and there you go, this familiar face of Amplitude 5, once again my old friend. And I don't want this to sound like I'm not using Amplitude, because I use this thing pretty much every single day of my life, or like at least in every song that needs guitars. Because lately I've been using a lot of Nunchuck by Polychrome DSP and a lot of Nutcracker. There's something about those two plugins that I found very interesting and very appealing. So I've been using them more and more and more. But if there's one big criticism that I have to those plugins, is that they don't have like a mono version. And a lot of times in productions, that kind of doesn't really work. I want to have one mono file for each guitar that I do. Just like for panning purposes, I feel like it's way easier and it just feels better to me. Alright, let's stop getting sidetracked and let's go grab a guitar. Today we're going to be using my Charvel Super Tele because we're doing a very, very heavy tone. And I have this thing tuned to drop C. So maybe you want to get something down tuned if you can. Okay, let's go. And even though in this episode I'm not going to take you through the journey of making every single part of the tone, what I am going to do is walk you through every single thing that I made to make this particular sound. And since it's so fresh in my head, I'm going to tell you the reasons behind the things that I choose, in the hopes that it might help you when you're making your own tones at home. And if you use it in your own productions, make sure you tag me on Instagram or wherever it is that you upload it. All right, let's do it. And first and foremost, I'm going to show you what this tone sounds like so that we're not blind, just like following through. Let's listen to what we have. So there you go, my friend. We're going to be making a lot of noise. And first I want to address the elephant in the room, and it would be this angle Powerball. Every time I'm trying to do like a modern sound that has a lot of bass and that you can really chug with it, I always like to go for the Powerball because it has like the tightest low end, or like the best trade-off between low end and high gain and distortion and noise and top end. But the thing that really drives me to this amp the most is that there's something about the character that for some reason it always makes anything stand out. But if you're looking for something that is going to be a little bit tighter and that is going to allow you to play like things that are way faster than the things that I'm playing right now, maybe this is not your best option. And we're going to have to come back to another episode to check that. But for now, the angle I think is the best option that we have right now in Amplitude to make a modern high gain tone. And my settings are pretty simple. I use, of course, the channel right here on the bottom, and I tend to go back and forth between gain high and low. I don't really make up my mind. I like them both kind of like equally. But what's really important to me is the fact that there's two mid-range controls. So with both of those, I tend to play around and just select which one I like the most for the sound that I'm making at the time. And yes, this looks insane right now because I'm not using that one. I'm using the Focus version and we're only on 2.5. So bass, I'm keeping it in the middle, then mid 2.5, treble 6.2, volume, I keep it in 5. And when I'm using this one, I feel like it's a little bit screechier, so I keep it like a 4.6. And then the master, I just adjusted to taste. This is going to vary on your settings because this is going to be directly linked with everything else that's happening in my signal chain. So whenever you're using this amp, things might be a little bit different for you. And then if there's something that I really want to make sure that you take home with this amp, is this D-punch situation over here. Listen to what it does. First, I'm going to turn it all the way down. Okay, now let's turn it all the way up. So you get the point. This is basically like a bunch of bass. And in this case, I like to keep it at 5 for this particular tone. And then now that we talked about the amp, the most natural thing to do is talk about the cabinet. And this is going to be a very interesting one because this amp, of course, it comes linked with an angle cabinet. Let's see, I think it's maybe this one. So even though it's like a good tone, there's something about that mid-range that I don't like. Let's try the other angle. This one might seem a little bit closer, I feel, to what I like to hear. But my selection is this greenback loaded monster. It is just like so aggressive, and even though it has a little bit more like that like thing happening, I still enjoy it. But of course, feel free to check whatever you want to check in this whole collection. And then very important is that it has the British green, which is probably the reason why it sounds so good. And now that we did that, why don't we start by taking all my signal chain off so we can hear the amp on its own. So needless to say that I'm being pretty aggressive with what I'm adding to the sound other than the amp. So let's just go check what's happening in the processing. And to begin right here from left to right, I have a very, very necessary gate just to make sure that it's easier to make riffs. Like for example, the one that I was doing earlier. I just want to make sure that every time I put my palm down to stop the strings, the gate helps me out a little bit more so that I don't have a little bit of extra ringing like all those kind of noise that you get every time you put like a little bit of a palm mute. Of course, in combination with this extreme high gain that we have. Then right next to that thing, I have this EQ that originally I had put in this amp because I thought that I was going to maybe like try to push the mid-range in a different way. But after a lot of experimentation, I noticed that I like the original sound better. But what I did like about this guy, it's a little bit of like the gain that it adds. Let's hear it. Almost like a clean boost, or maybe like a not so clean boost, because I hear like a lot of great harmonics happening with this guy. And then right after that, I have my classic Fender compressor that I just like to have because it's like a nice safety blanket. I feel like it's really cool because it like evens up your playing a little bit without being like too aggressive that it almost like feels like intruding in your playing. It's just helping you out. Of course, and if you go higher, you're gonna have a lot more compression. And I like to use those settings, especially if I'm doing like a lead, for example. And I like to go to those settings. If I'm doing maybe like a solo in a song and I want to make a patch, I'm probably going to compress with this a little bit harder before any other tone shaping pedal that I might have, like distortion, overdrive, even chorus or phase, whatever it might be. I like to have it right here. Do you like to use compression before your overdrives, or do you like to use it after? Or what happens with even choruses? I've been super curious to know what you like to do in your own guitar tones. Please make sure that you leave a comment, and while you're there, remember to like, subscribe, and do all those cool little things that we like to do on YouTube, and enjoy this little bossa nova, my friend. I hope your day keeps getting better and better and better. Alright, let's keep making some noise. In my gain section, this literally changes all the time. But right now, I've been favoring this Deluxe Pinnacle by Wampler for a long time. I want to say maybe the past couple years. But I could very well be using a Tube Screamer right here and I'll be as happy. But there's something about the tone of this guy and something about the attack, especially on the pick, that it makes me feel
happier.
It just sounds better to me. And as you can see, I'm not really doing that much, but it's adding a lot of noise. And that might be the only drawback to this pedal, but I mean, we're adding a lot of gain. Listen, and yes, I am getting a little bit of noise, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, the benefits of this pedal totally outweighs the cons, because I just feel like just that extra presence, that extra pick attack that I get, and that extra definition just makes almost every single tone that I use it on better. Let's hear the difference. So yeah, a lot of noise, but a lot of definition and a lot of great things happening by just adding this nice little pedal in the gain section. And now last, but certainly not least, the most important part I think in this tone would be the master section. And as you can see, I have a little bit of EQ and a lot of compression. So yeah, that master section means business. And see the master output, what happens with it. We're we're gaining so much more volume and so much more aggression, and we're still not clipping, which is one of the worst things that you could do ever in Amplitude. So let's just check really quick what's happening. In this EQ, again, we already know that this EQ adds a lot of gain, but look, in this case, I am actually compensating on the output by turning it down. But very important, I am doing key things. I'm switching a little bit of where the frequencies in the mid-range are feeling dominant in this amp. Mostly because I feel like in the inception of this amp, when they made it, they were not thinking that we were going to be tuning to drop C, right? So one of the things that I'm doing is I'm decluttering the mid-range at 250, I don't know, by maybe 1.8, 2 decibels. That doesn't really matter. Just do whatever feels good to you, because sometimes I get a little bit too finicky, 1.8 or 2.
Choose whatever feels good to you.
And then pretty much I'm doing a bump exactly almost like the same magnitude, but in 125. Effectively switching that curve for the amp. Then right after, I think I just leave the 500 alone, and then I start doing a little bit of a shelf by pushing a little bit in 1K, then a little bit of 2K, and then a little bit of 4K, and then poof, a big 1.5 decibel dip on 8 kilohertz, but a boost on 2.4. So basically, I'm doing kind of like the same thing on both ends, but sort of like in a mirror effect, because I'm going lower on the bass and higher on the treble. And then in the compression department, I start with the 2A on the compress setting. And what I'm really looking for, it's with the peak reduction setting, I try to go for something like around maybe like 1.5 decibels on like a general basis. And then when I'm doing like very hard chugs, when you're going to have like a lot of like woof, woof, woof happening. And it's just going to keep the tone a little bit more even when I do these different styles of picking, let's say. And then with the output, what I'm trying to do is make sure that after the gain reduction, I sort of like have like the same level when I take the plugin in and out. Sort of like the same level. You experiment with it. And then right after that, I have the EQ81, which is probably my favorite EQ in this whole collection in Amplitude. And very crucially, I'm doing cuts on both ends, in the top and in the bottom. In the bottom at 47 hertz, but depending on your tuning, I would go all the way as high as 82, let's say if you're tuning on E standard. And then on the high end, I don't know, that's gonna go up to you, my friend. And then right after, I have an 1176, and I like this one because this one is allowing me to actually shape the front end of the note. Where the 2A was a little bit more like focusing on the chugs, doing a little bit more what the 2A was doing, especially in the chugging. You can see it exactly when I'm like really palm muting where I can get like the most bass possible. You see those going down, right? Giving us a tone that sounds really modern, really metal,
and really heavy.
All right, my friend, let's go get a few conclusions. So there you have it, my friend. That tone is so much fun. And what is a good tone if you cannot have fun with it? This thing is like so aggressive. It's not really clinical, but it gives you so much character. And I guarantee you that if you try it in your own setup,
you'll have so much fun.
But that's been enough about me, my friend. Let me know in the comment section down below if you really like this episode. And if you stayed till the very end, let me know in the comment section by typing nu metal. Because basically all the riffs that I was playing today were nu metal riffs. I mean, I grew up in the 90s and in the 2000s. So of course, these things are exactly what I dreamt about when I was a kid. But that's enough about me, my friend. I want to hear what you have to say in the comment section down below. And remember, like, subscribe, and if you can financially support me, smash that super thanks button right there. I thank you so much. And if you have some more time to watch another video, my friend, go watch this one right here. And I'll be waiting for you right there. Right. See you soon, my friend.